This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast that takes a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we're talking with four men's track and field sprinters who broke the school record in the 4x100 relay, but aren't remotely satisfied with that result. Plus, softball sophomore Emma Yen had a breakout week for the Bobcats, and we check in with the rowing teams. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The track and field teams competed at three different meets over the weekend, starting on Friday when the multi-athletes headed to Smith College's Carla Coffee Invitational. Over the course of 2 days, Bates women's track and field senior Livia Kozick turned in her best performance in the Heptathlon to date as a Bobcat, winning the event by tallying 4,112 points, good for third on the Bates all-time performance list. It was a day of personal bests for Kozick, who joins the Bobcast to take us behind the scenes of her standout performance. Well, Livia, victory for you in the Heptathlon there, the Carla Coffee Invitational, 2-day event, right? So take us through kind of how it went from your perspective, day one to day two there.
Yeah, so I wasn't really expecting anything out of this meet. The transition from the 5-event pentathlon to the 7-event heptathlon is kind of like, okay, let's just feel it out, see how it goes. So we got there, and it was Friday, and it starts with hurdles, and I started out with a big, second PR in hurdles, and I finally beat my high school PR from 4 years ago, so that was really set the momentum. And then I carried the momentum, and I went to high jump, and I got my year PR, so not my best ever, but, best of the year. And then I went to shot put, and I set another meter PR, and so it was just everything was going great. And I went to 200, and I set another PR by 2 seconds. So it was just things were going crazy already, and I was feeling really good going into the next day. And yeah, I woke up and I was, nervous because I knew that, there was now one girl ahead of me. And so I was coming in and I was like, okay, let's see what I can do here. Don't, lose your position. And I went out there and I set another PR in the long jump. And then I went to javelin. It didn't go so well, but that's okay. We ignore it. And then I went to the 800 and I set another PR in the 800. So it's a crazy, really good day. And then I ended up winning because the girl that was ahead of me, even though I didn't do great in javelin, she fouled all of her throws. And so I got the win. And also it felt extra good because her name was Livy and my name is Livy. So I had to be the better Livy, obviously. So that's the recap.
Nice. So after javelin, you knew you kind of had it locked up, assuming you didn't fall over in the next race.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as I didn't walk, it was pretty much a sure bet. Yeah. But I still wanted to, show myself up.
Excellent. Yeah, you moved up the Bates top 10 list. I think the third now all time, right? So what was that like? And I know Abby was a big mentor for you, and she's number one, so you're kind of looking at her number, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. I'm definitely looking at her number. Well, I forget what her number is, but I know that I like that there's a little room to improve for the next one during New England's, and I'm hoping that just for the Pent, we're now 4th and 5th in the Pent, and so 1 and 2 in the Hep would be really great. I would love that.
Yeah, certainly. And obviously you mentioned the 2 extra events there, javelin, and then what else?
Javelin and 200 are added.
Okay, they're added. Okay, gotcha. So javelin, obviously a totally different event than everything else. Yeah. So what are you going to be working on there?
Well, I'm just going to get in some more sessions with Coach Kalina, and I got to work on my follow through is the problem. So I got to yank on it. That's what they keep telling me, just yank on it. So I'm going to be doing some yanking.
Gotcha. Did you get any chance to see your teammates? I know UMass Amherst was close by.
Right. We actually did not go to that meet because we ended up ending at around the same time. So yeah, it was just ships in the night.
Gotcha. But then obviously, what's it like, competing with the rest of the heptathletes from around New England, sort of? What's that group like?
Yeah, it's fun because, you start seeing these people in a tight, intimate setting for 2 days at a time, periodically throughout the year, and then throughout 4 years. So I've gotten to the point where I've built some relationships with those girls, and it's fun to hang out, and that people are having a good day or a bad day, and you can kind of have a support system with people that are not on your team, which is I think that's something special about the multi.
Gotcha. And then I know Carson was there for the men's team, also competing in the decathlon. So what's it like to have at least one teammate there with you, right?
I'm so grateful to have Carson, that's for sure, because it would be so mentally challenging if I didn't have someone that was also going through the same thing and plus 3 events. Like, he's going through worse, if we're being honest. So it makes me feel a lot better. And then, we don't get to really see each other for long durations at a time, but we'll see each other in passing between events. Like, how'd you do? Good. And kind of like hype each other up. And at the end of the day on Saturday, when I was all done, I got to watch his last couple events. So that was really fun. Super grateful to have him.
What event are you going to be competing in this weekend?
I think I'm going to be doing triple jump, which is really exciting because they never let me do triple jump because I have so many other things going on, but it's my favorite. Okay. And so I'm going to bust that out, and I think I'm doing high jump and 4x4. So just like an all-around, I don't know.
So you love the triple jump, even though that's not part of the... What about that event do you like so much?
I like that there are 3 phases of the triple jump, so it's like there's 3 areas to improve, which I think is cool because 3 feet is just an extra foot on each one of those phases, so it's like kind of fun to break it up in your brain. And also I don't know, I like doing things that there's a little more technique and like challenge to, and that one's definitely one of those.
And you get to be part of a relay, so that'll be fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 400 relay, so is it ever really fun? No, that's up to debate, but it's fun it is fun to be in a relay and support your teammates and get supported, so that's cool.
So it sounds like your next chance at the Heptathlon's in New England, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and where are those? Mount Holyoke, I think?
Yeah, Mount Holyoke.
Gotcha. So what are you looking forward to most about your next opportunity? Obviously, you got the victory here. I'm sure there'll be even tougher competition along the way, right?
Yeah, I am definitely going into it scared just because I PR'd in like almost everything. So, I feel like I'm reaching the peak here, but I'm also excited because it's going to be my last meet ever, and it's going to be a chance to leave it all out there, see what I can do, and just like try my best and see if I can beat Livia again. That would be great.
Excellent. What are your thoughts from the weekend you wanted to share we haven't got to talk about yet?
It was just a good weekend, and I'm grateful for spending my time with my Coach Art. He goes with Carson and I, and we always do traditional getting Wendy's ice cream afterwards. And so it was just like a nice, wholesome, fun trip. Yeah.
All right, Livia Kozick, winner of the Heptathlon there at the Carla Coffee Invitational at Smith College. Thanks so much for joining the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
In men's track and field, sophomore Ross Tejeda was named the NESCAC Men's Track Athlete of the Week after his performance in the 800 meters Friday night at the Providence College Friar Invitational. Tejeda turned in a personal record time of 1 minute 51.71 seconds in the event, moving up to 5th on the Bates all-time performance list. Speaking of records, the Bates men's 4x100 relay team of senior Derek Shen, junior captain Kevin O'Connor, junior Aydan Gedeon-Hope, and first-year Jackson Rose broke the school record Saturday at the UMass Commonwealth Invite with their time of 41.81 seconds. Rose is our male Bobcat of the week after not only helping the 4x100 team break the school record, but also placing 4th in the 200 meters and helping the Bobcats score points in the 4x400 as well. We welcome the entire 4x100 relay team to this week's episode of the Bobcast, as they are not satisfied with just breaking the Bates record in the event. They want more. Derek and Kevin, you were part of a record-breaking team last year, and now you got 2 new teammates for this year's record-breaking relay team. So, Derek, tell me a little bit about what's it like to have these 2 newcomers join the group here.
It's electric to have these guys on the team, especially for me as a 5th year. I was able to really have more fun this year with guys like Jackson. We call him JR, and Aydan. We call him Aydan-Hope. They bring a lot of good energy to the team, and they're very, very fast. So we're excited to see them develop and further progress into the season and see if we have a shot at the national championships.
Yeah, and Kevin, you're obviously one of the captains, really the captain of the sprint group, so it's cool to see, Jackson a first year and Aydan, a second year in terms of track, coming in and doing such a good job, right?
Yeah, we have such a competitive group of sprinters, and it's just amazing to see not only through 60 and the 100, but all the way up through the 400 and the 400 hurdles, how many competitive guys we have. And it's just a testament to the sprint program that we all put the work in, and Coach Johnson. It's nice. I know me and Derek, we spoke to one of the senior captains last year, Colby Steckham-Pickering, and it's just, nice to have the support from the team.
Jackson, you're first year, so tell me a little bit about yourself. What led you to Bates and what first got you into track and field growing up?
I actually started track last year in my post-grad year.
Okay.
And a lot of friends just wanted me to do it, and I got out there, and I ended up being very grateful that I was able to have that opportunity because it's led me here. And, made it onto these team with all these guys that I get to spend so much time with. So it's been an incredible experience, and I'm very grateful to be here now.
So only started track last year. So do you play other sports growing up, I assume?
Yeah, I was here for soccer initially.
Okay.
But I had some injuries.
Sure.
But fortunately, I get to play here. I got to come into the preseason early on, all the way back in like September, just to get some training in with some of the guys, meeting KO, our captain. And then I had the opportunity to meet these two when our season started, him coming out of basketball, and then the D-man coming in for the second semester. So it was incredible.
Yeah, we'll talk to Derek a little bit about being a fifth year. But Aydan, speaking of other sports, basketball into outdoor track and field. I mean, this transition you did last year too, right? So what's it been like, kind of shifting back and forth between the sports between winter and spring?
I mean, it's definitely a transition for sure. I mean, two different sports. Like I'm just doing a bunch of different things. Basketball is a lot of quick movements, a lot of jumping, stuff like that. Track's just full-on sprinting, so it's very different. But it's been a very seamless transition for me, I think. Obviously, there are good days and bad days, but I think the guys have been supporting me, especially when I first came back. It's definitely different, just sprinting as opposed to, like I said, playing basketball. But these guys have been having my back and just been with me, especially as kind of came off in a slow start, in my opinion. But it's been pretty good, and I'm just grateful to be here.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a junior now. And when you were first year, you weren't on basketball and you weren't on track either, right?
So I was on track.
You were, okay.
But I got injured very early on,
gotcha.
and then I didn't run for pretty much the whole year, so.
Gotcha. So going from a first year where you didn't really get to compete in either sport to being a sophomore last year and doing both, what was that transition like for you?
It was a lot, for sure. I talk about it with my friends all the time. I had so much free time. My body felt pretty good, honestly, the second half of the year because I wasn't really doing much. And then last year, basketball was a lot. It was a great experience for me, and I was really grateful to be a part of that team. But basketball does a lot to your body, and then just switching right over to track right after. It was definitely a lot, and, less time traveling with meets and stuff like that, traveling for basketball. It was definitely a change in environment, but I loved it. I loved being a part of both teams, and just, happy to be here.
So, Derek, coming back here for your fifth year, or I guess should say extra semester, right? Because you weren't on campus fall semester, is that correct? So tell me a little bit about, what were you doing when you were away from Bates?
Yeah, so I was only here the semester. I took fall semester off, so I was able to – I just needed one more semester to graduate.
Yeah.
So I chose spring so I can run track with these beautiful young gentlemen, distinguished gentlemen. As you can tell, we have a lot of different backgrounds on the team. Aydan played basketball. Jackson did soccer. KO did football.
Yeah.
I did rowing. So in the fall, I coached rowing back home in Seattle, Washington. I coached middle school, high school kids. Had a lot of fun with them. It was nice to sort of step outside the academia zone and sort of just have fun and develop a little bit of leadership skills and sort of take some time off.
That's a really interesting point you make. Yeah, all four of you, different sports originally. So, Kevin, I mean, what's that like to have a group where you all have athletic backgrounds, just not necessarily in track and field for a long time until Bates, I guess?
Yeah, it's a little bit weird that our 4x1 school record is comprised of 4 walk-ons, essentially. And, we all bring different backgrounds. So, as Derek, I've never rowed before. He brings that, kind of hard work mentality from rowing. Jackson, kind of that finesse from soccer, I guess, and Aydan, just like you said, the explosiveness from basketball. So it's a lot of different backgrounds, and it comes together, I guess, in track where really all sports can. And I guess one other component of it is the real hard work that we put in every day, and it's just something that people are coming from different backgrounds, so it's a really good experience every day, and I'm very grateful to have these guys.
So take us through the race on Saturday. I mean, obviously it went very well, but how to go from your perspective?
Yeah, so the legs are Derek is the first leg, I'm the second leg, Aydan's the third leg, and Jackson is the fourth leg. So Derek got out really well. He broke the stagger, so the race was, I think, us, Stonehill, Vermont, UMass Amherst, and another Stonehill team, so they ran 2. So Derek broke the stagger right away. So immediately it was about a 2-man race. So then I got the baton, kind of separated from that second Stonehill team, and then it was really just us and UMass Amherst. So gave it to Aydan, who really ate up that leg. But again, he had no one to really race with because UMass was a little bit ahead, and there was no one else in the race. And then Jackson brought it home. So we still think there's a decent bit we can improve on in terms of our handoffs and just like racing against people, because it was really the second half of the race was alone. So we're looking forward to running the relay again and bringing down that number.
Yeah, Jackson, what's it like anchoring a 4x1? I mean, being the last racer there.
It's definitely a lot, but I'd say kind of like KO said, everyone did their part, and for me it was just kind of hold on and just keep going. I get a great handoff from Aydan and just relax from there on out. Just finish the race and get out there, kind of just show how much hard work's gone into this and what time we want and what time we got. And going into it, I mean, we look at this we talked about it earlier, but it's a team full of guys who come from different sports, and there's just so much potential brewing, and being able to come in and push that number out on our very first time running as a relay was incredible. And we're looking for, like you said, we're trying to push that time down, get into the nationals range. So
yeah, and for a sprint relay like this, Aydan, what's the key to a successful handoff? I mean, both on the receiving end and doing the handing off yourself.
Honestly, the biggest thing is trusting your steps and trusting your teammate. I think because it all happens so fast, it's very easy to sort of get phased a little bit. But that's really what practice is for. We have a couple handoffs, two times, at least twice a week, sometimes one time a week, depending on the time of year. But it gets to a certain point where we've practiced it enough to the point where you just got to trust it. So when you're getting out, you get out as fast as you can, and you put your hand back, and you just trust your teammates can get it to you, and your teammate will get it to you. So I think it's one of those things with racing in particular. You can't think; you kind of just have to do it, and in this case, just trust your teammates. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I think. And from there, you just run as fast as you can and give it if you have to give it, or cross the finish line like Rose did. So yeah.
Well, Derek, I'm curious. I mean, you guys have touched on this a couple times. Right now, the time you have is 41.81 seconds, which breaks last year's record of 42.04 seconds. So broke through the 42-second barrier. But what, in your opinion, what's the ceiling here? The sky's the limit, I guess, for this team? It sounds like there's some improvements to make. I mean, what are some kind of numbers you have in your head?
Yeah, I definitely feel like our limit is beyond the sky. I think with us four, we can get into the 40s. Mm-hmm. We can break 41, and that's about what it takes to go to nationals. And I think we have that capability because last year at this time, if we look at the speed of this team individually, it's unmatched. It's completely different. We have Gedeon-Hope right now at 1083, Jackson Rose 1100, and KO 1101, and I'm in the 10.8 myself. Last year it was not this type of speed, and this is middle of the season. We have so much time to develop. We haven't even peaked yet, so we have so much to look forward to, and really, I think beyond the sky is what we're shooting for.
Kevin, your thoughts on that? Similar thoughts, probably?
Yeah, I know. I'm just going to harp off those 2 points. So, Derek talking about how we're in the middle of the season. So, we're all going for those who don't know, for track, we train through for the first part of the season. And then as we get to the back half, we taper and we really take training a little bit lighter because we already have the strength and the endurance and the fitness. So, I think once we start to peak, we're going to naturally take off time. I think Derek was talking about our last year's team. You look at it, I think at this time we ran 42.6, 42.5, ended up getting down to 42 flat. So I think we got 0.3, 0.4 in there. And then, like I said, our handoffs were great, and we ran a great time, but I think we still have room to improve. We already spoke to Coach Johnson, and there's some adjustments that we need to make. So I think between those two factors, it was only 50 degrees and cloudy on Saturday. We didn't really have a great race, in terms of competition. Between all those factors, I think getting in that low 41 / breaking 41 is a realistic possibility, and competing with those high-level NESCAC teams as well.
It's funny you say that because you were going up against a bunch of Division I schools, but it's not the same, I guess. I mean, NESCAC is higher level perhaps than the low D1. Is that fair?
I think that's definitely fair to say because, I mean, when we're looking now at our competition for NESCACs, and we're looking at a team like Tufts, who is going to be very competitive in that low 41 range. We're looking at a team like Middlebury and a team like Amherst, who have already ran low 41 marks. And then when we get to the New Englands, I mean, MIT is one of the most competitive 4x1s, regardless of division, in New England. So I think that's definitely fair to say. The NESCAC is very competitive, especially when it comes to the sprints. And these guys have said, we're just going to go out there and compete and do the best to our abilities and race against the guys who are on the line. But I have the utmost confidence we can race against anyone in New England.
And all you guys had pretty busy days competing in multiple events. I mean, Jackson, you in particular, you had your race in the 4x1. You had the 200-meter dash where you finished 4th, and you also were a part of the 4x4 relay. So take us through that busy day from your perspective.
So myself, Derek, and KO had the opportunity to run the 4x4 for the first time, which was perhaps the most electric race that I've ever run in. Definitely a different type of energy than the 4x1. But, getting through the day, I mean, you just have to go from race to race and be prepared. I know KO and I ran off to eat right after so that we could prepare for the 200. And then, resting up, elevating, and then getting back into it so we could have a good race. And then kind of the same process between the 200 and the 4x4. It was just, you got to get through the day and you got to remain focused because, I mean, it was really great to break a record, but we were all there for more than just one race, so you got to remain focused.
Now, you guys were kind of laughing about the 4x4. That's not really necessarily your guys' cup of tea, I take it, probably, right, as sprinters?
Yes. In fact, for me personally, it was my very first 400-meter race. So it's a little bit daunting. So Gedeon-Hope was supposed to be on that race. Unfortunately, and I feel really sorry for Gedeon-Hope. He injured his hamstring at the end of the 4x1, so we really appreciate him putting his whole body on the line on that day. He's actually going to get checked out by the doctor today. We hope he's fine and he can get back to the team as fast as possible. But that meant myself, I had to step on. There were no alternates, so I had to step on, and I was the third leg dedicated by coach, and it was a struggle to say the least. I think the first 1/3 of the lap was very easy, and then I come on the home straight, and I realized I can't go anymore. So I swam to the line, and KO had to stop to receive the baton because I was not moving. I was not moving fast enough to hand it off, but ended up splitting a good time. So I guess I'm sort of a 400 runner, but not really.
How'd it go from your perspective, Kevin?
So I mean, obviously, we're laughing here. Like it's pretty funny, ironic that we'd all run the 4x4, and before the race, we got together, we huddled with Coach Johnson, and Coach Johnson was lock in, take it seriously, and the thing I love about our culture is that obviously the 4x4, it's a spectacle for us. It's something we're not normally gonna do, and we get in a huddle. And we're making it seem like it's the Super Bowl. We're listening to Rocky before we go. We're just we're getting really fired up. Like Jackson said, electric. And it's really funny because it's 3 of our 4 guys from who broke the 4x1, and ran a pretty good time. I think somewhere in the top 30 in D3. And now we're gonna run a pretty, to put it bluntly, mediocre time in the 4x4, right? But instead of having a culture where we're going in and we're this sucks and I just want to go home and whatever, we had a really positive energy the whole day, and we talked about how this is something we don't really get to do. It's really no pressure. We just get to go out, have fun, run a lap, hand it to your teammate, and it was honestly the highlights of the season because it was just so fun. We had our whole team cheering for us because they also realized it's not a race we normally run, and I think Coach Johnson was pretty happy with how we ran. We all ran pretty solid times, so very happy with the performance, and like I said, one of the highlights I'll look on.
Well, Aydan, how you feeling there with the hamstring?
I'm feeling better for sure. It hurt a lot on Saturday. It was pretty much simultaneous to my handoff with J Rose, which was great because I got it to him and he could just run. It didn't really affect anything, but wasn't really able to put pressure on it on Saturday. It was hard for me to walk, couldn't really bend my leg, but I'm walking now. Not as much pain, it's tender and stuff like that, but not too bad. Obviously just hoping for the best. I can't really control what the doctor's going to say, but just kind of hoping for the best. And, if it takes 2 weeks for me to recover, I'm going to take those 2 weeks very seriously and then come back and, hopefully put us in that contention for nationals and stuff like that. But right now he's taking it day by day.
Yeah.
But thankfully it's feeling a lot better than it did on Saturday.
You got to sit down and watch these guys in the 4x4. What was the experience like as a spectator?
Oh, it was so cool. I'm not going to lie, and I'm one of those people, the 400 kind of scares me. I've ran it once before as an open 4, and as Derek said, I was supposed to run it. And I'm not going to lie, watching them run it kind of made me jealous a little bit. Like I kind of wanted to just run it with them because it looks so fun. Also, they look surprisingly good. I'm not gonna lie, because I was kind of expecting them to be dying, because I was sort of at the back curve. And they were all just, I don't know, they were just having fun. Smirks here and there, cheering on the crowd and stuff like that. So it was awesome to see. And, yeah, like I said, I kind of wish that I was running it with them because I think it would have been fun. But
Excellent. Well, this week we have the main state meet, which is really basically the last time for the entire team, I feel like, to come together in competition. So, Kevin, as the captain, what are your thoughts on, hopefully taking home this state title this weekend with the whole team, right?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. And, obviously our season's very long, but we've got a lot of people on the team. We've got a very talented team. So for NESCACs, you got to be top 3 in your event. So we've got a lot of talented people who are unfortunately going to have to stop their season this week. So it's a really good opportunity for us to come together, those rivalry teams like Colby and Bowdoin and USM, and get out there and culmination of a lot of people's seasons. So obviously this crew, we're gonna keep going, but being cognizant of people have worked really hard, really since the summer, for kind of this moment, this kind of peak moment. So just trying to come together as a team, and we're gonna put our best foot forward and try and win the championship again. Obviously we didn't in indoors, but getting ready for NESCACs next week is also a big priority as well.
Certainly. Well, Jackson, you mentioned that originally you were thinking soccer and now pivoting to track and field as a college athlete. Tell me a little bit about the experience on this team and what's it been like compared to maybe your experience on soccer teams growing up.
I think one thing that I've realized, especially in this year as well as last year, is the co-ed experience is something very different. Being able to have that close of a bond with the women's team, being able to practice with them, compete with them, it isn't a women's and a men's team, it's just one team. And that's definitely a great experience in itself. And it definitely changes how you see the sport and how you see, we have such an incredible women's team as well. We have people who have just joined from other sports in the last, just this year. And then we have people who have been going for 4 years and they're constantly top 10 in the country for their events, and it's just an incredible experience as a whole.
Derek Shen, Kevin O'Connor, Jackson Rose, and Aydan Gedeon-Hope. New school record, the 4x100. More to come, hopefully, this year. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bates sophomore Emma Yen competed in indoor track and field this winter, but it was on the softball diamond this past week where she really shined, turning in a remarkable week that saw Yen go 10 for 20 at the plate with 5 runs scored, 9 runs batted in, 2 doubles, and 2 inside the park home runs. What made it remarkable was that Yen entered the week having 1 hit in her career at Bates. Normally a defensive specialist at second base, Yen has gotten the chance to hit this season, and she raised her batting average from .045 to .262, thanks to her breakout performance, earning Yen NESCAC Player of the Week honors, and she is our female Bobcat of the Week. All right, Emma, before we talk about your huge week, take me back to high school and growing up. What got you into softball and then what eventually led you to Bates?
Sure. So I grew up in Long Island, and there's pretty much travel teams all over Long Island. So I just started with, obviously, Little League, and then my dad was a coach. And then it just progressed into, travel, high school. And then I got recruited by the previous coach that was here, and then, now I'm here.
And what made Bates the kind of place for you coming up from Long Island?
Yeah, I just really liked how small the school was. I knew I didn't want to go to, a super big school. And then I just really liked how, close everyone was on campus.
Last year, you were playing second base pretty much every game, but you weren't getting a chance to hit. This year, you got a chance to hit. What's the transition been like? In terms of having that extra aspect of the game each time. You're not just worrying about defense, you're doing both.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a new part that I didn't get to do last year. With the seniors graduating and a couple of people leaving, it's given me a new chance to step up on the team and really find my role and how I could help and just progress the team.
So what a week for you, first of all. You had 1 hit all season entering the week, and then you go 5 for 10. Yeah. What was clicking at the plate?
In the beginning of the season, our first NESCAC teams that we played were Tufts and Williams, and those pitchers were pretty brutal. So I feel like after seeing them, I was just seeing the ball really well at the plate, and I was just driving the ball.
And you had, 2 inside the park home runs? Not 1, but 2. Had you ever had inside the park home runs before, in softball? I feel like it's kind of rare.
Yeah, maybe in high school I had a couple, but definitely these are my first home runs of college, so I was really just trying to go around the bases as fast as possible.
So when you're rounding second, headed to third, you're obviously looking at Coach McKay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts when she's saying, keep going?
I thought I was just going to be a stand-up triple or a double, and then I just see her, like, bringing me home, and I think in one of the home runs, she, like, knocked over one of the other girls, and she was really into it, and I was like, okay, I got to keep going.
Excellent. And then what was it like to score the game-winning run there against Amherst? Anderson driving you in there. I mean, scoring the winning run and getting mobbed by your teammates got to be fun, right?
Yeah, that was really exciting. I mean, I knew that I have a lot of faith in Zaria and her abilities at the plate, so I just knew as soon as she hit the ball, I was going.
And then, I mean, just for you personally, I mean, in terms of what have you been working on at the plate to have this breakout week? You mentioned it helped to face some really good pitching before, but what have you been working on in practice and everything?
Yeah, we've been really focusing on our mindset at the plate and being relaxed and not stressing too much about every single pitch. We've been focusing a lot on knowing what our situation is and being able to, like, if we have a runner on second, we want to drive the ball, a grounder to the outfield so the runner can score, or maybe a sac fly to right so the runner can score. So we've been working a lot on how to be a team hitter and not just an individual hitter.
Now, we've been talking a little bit on this episode about athletes competing in multiple sports, and you were competing in track and field this winter. I don't think you were on the team as a first year, right? You joined this year. So what was the impetus to join the track and field team this year?
I just thought, or one of my teammates last year had joined the track and field team, and I honestly had never run track before or anything. Like in high school, I didn't. But I thought it would be a really fun opportunity, and this is a place where that can happen. So and I feel like it ultimately did help me in softball, getting faster and more explosive. And
so what was the kind of the season? How did it go from your perspective there in indoor? Because you knew you weren't going to be able to obviously play outdoor because you have softball, but what was the group like? What was the experience like, kind of?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. The entire track team was super welcoming, and it was just a different environment to be in, and everyone is really genuinely happy for your success. And because it's all times, you could really see the improvement throughout the season.
Great. And then softball, have you always been a second baseman, or have you moved positions a little bit?
In high school, I played shortstop and third, and in travel, I played shortstop. But then in college, LMR, she plays short. She's an amazing shortstop, and I got moved to second. But this season, I've been moving around a little bit with what the team needs. So some games I was at third, but some games I'm at second.
So how do you adjust from that? Because obviously third is a much different position because that ball gets on you immediately, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's just about like adjusting and knowing what the situation is for each play. I feel like I'm still definitely getting better at that, or trying to get better at that with adjusting, but it's really whatever the team needs.
Great. Well, tell me a little bit about Coach McKay coming in. You mentioned obviously we had previous coaches, and now Coach McKay has stepped in, and last year was kind of her first kind of full year as head coach. So tell me a little bit about her.
Yeah, Coach McKay is really great. She really cares about like everyone on the team and all her players, and you could really tell how much effort she gives into making the team the best it can be. And we have a really young team this year, but I think that it will ultimately lead us to success later.
I was going to say, you only have one senior, right?
Yeah.
So what's it like having such a young squad?
Yeah, you could definitely tell, and it is really fun because they're all like around my age. But I think that it's just allowed for a lot more of the sophomores to step up into bigger roles and to become like more of leaders on the team.
Great. Well, you have this kind of week. You have finals week, so no games. Next scheduled game is this weekend. You're at Bowdoin, take on the Polar Bears. But what are your thoughts on kind of the second half almost of the season coming up? You're probably a little bit past the halfway point, but what are some thoughts on what the team is working on to build this momentum? You've had a few NESCAC wins and keep building on that sort of.
Yeah, I feel like we just have to keep on working on hitting, driving runs in. I think that's always been our biggest fall setback. And I feel like it's just really important for us to get wins for the rest of the season to get a chance at playoffs.
What's it mean to you to be the NESCAC Player of the Week? Not just Female Bobcat of the Week, but NESCAC Player of the Week.
I thought it was really exciting. Actually, when I found out, I was walking across Bygars, and a couple of my teammates, they saw me walking, and they're like, Emma, you made NESCAC Player of the Week. And I was like just in shock. I was like, oh my God, no way. But it was really exciting.
Excellent. Well, Emma, again, our Female Bobcat of the Week, as I just mentioned, NESCAC Player of the Week as well. A 500 batting average this past week against some tough NESCAC competition. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
The rowing teams finally got a chance to compete against schools in their division over the weekend, starting Saturday on the Malden River and continuing Sunday on Lake Quinsigamond. The men's team fell just short in one-on-one races with Wesleyan and then Tufts on Saturday, but on Sunday, all 3 boats emerged victorious in their races against the likes of WPI and Hamilton, among others. Senior captain and All-American rower Charlie Berman joins the Bobcast to update us on the men's rowing team.
Well, it's a busy time of year for the rowing team because you've got multiple weekends with races back-to-back days. So men's rowing, take us through the last weekend you had down there. I think Malden River and then Lake Quinsigamon, right?
Yeah, so Malden was with Wesleyan and Tufts, both great racers, great teams. I think Wesleyan is ranked number 1 in D3 and Tufts number 3. So really good experience just to get down there and test ourselves. The past weekends have been mostly outside of conference competition. So while it's good to get the experience, we don't know how we stack up in the division. So being able to test ourselves against these really big threats that come IRAs is a great opportunity, and I think the team handled it really well. The racing from Wesleyan to Tufts, most men's boats had, I think, an hour and a half turnaround. So to go from racing Wesleyan, showing great performance there, to racing a fresh Tufts, and most boats came full contact, a couple seconds off them, is really great promise for the rest of the year. And then Sunday, it's just a great day of racing. It's really fun to go 6 across or 5 across or whatever it may be. That's the first time we've done that all year. So being able to test ourselves against these other crews that, while not at the top, are definitely worthy of respect as competitors, and to come out on top in those matchups is a great feeling as well.
I was going to ask you, what's the big difference like when you're racing one-on-one like that on Malden versus, like, as you mentioned, 5 or 6 different crews?
Yeah, so the Bates race plan, I hope I'm not giving away anything too confidential here, but it's usually, hold them off the line, and then at the middle 1,000, that's when we make our move, and that's when we break away. So if you're one-on-one, if you can't quite hold them in that first 1,000 meters, it's really tough to make that move. Whereas if you have multiple boats across, let's say one boat's up a bit, you still have other boats to push off of, and that'll help you make your move through that leading boat, or at least bridge up to that leading boat. It's also just a cooler environment. You can look around, you see everyone there versus just one-on-one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you've been racing Harvard lightweights, MIT, stuff like that. So what was it like to get a win? It must have felt good to cross the line first there on Sunday, right?
It did feel good for sure. Those are one of those races where we expect to win that one. They're great competitors. We don't take it for granted, but if you think about the season as a series of checkpoints, that's one checkpoint we hope to hit. So it feels good, but we're not resting on our laurels. We got Trinity next week. We'll see Tufts and Wesleyan again, NERCs and IRCs. So we're still keeping our eyes forward, just moving along.
Yeah, certainly. And obviously you're one of the returnees in that first Varsity 8 boat. They got 3rd at IRAs last year in the D3 race. So tell me a little bit about this group that's in the boat this year with you.
I mean, it's just a fantastic group. We got a lot of returners. We got Isaac Levinger's back. We got George Favre returning in stroke seat. We got a couple new guys from the 2V who are also at IRAs, so plenty of racing experience there. And then a couple new guys with Jimmy Stoller and Lando Putnam-Bagley. They've been awesome. They've sort of brought new excitement, a little bit of refreshing outlook to things, which has been nice. And then we have Izzy Beck and Coxon, and she's been fantastic. When we lost Brady, we were really losing a lot of experience, a lot of professionalism, but she's really stepped in. The guys all respect her. They think she's got a great head on her shoulders. She knows the sport, she knows the team, and she knows how to do her job. So come race day, we're not sitting around thinking, oh, what are we doing? When are we launching? When are we warming up? She's got it all laid out for us.
Excellent. And then I know this year you got on the water earlier than ever, and then we had a giant snowstorm. So take us through what's practicing been like. I mean, you got to practice on the water, in March, and then obviously for a few weeks you probably didn't, right?
Yeah, we didn't. We're used to it.
Yeah.
We usually get on the water late. I think the number of days has been basically the same as past years. And Coach always tells us we got to keep our flexibility trousers on. And the guys have. We've turned around. We've gotten water time at these races that we've been to. We've been able to still get sessions in as best we can, pivot to mornings or whatever it takes. So really hasn't been that big an issue. Just keep the train moving.
Excellent. Tell us about your seat in the boat and what makes it unique maybe compared to other seats.
Sure. So I'm at sitting 7 seats, so right behind the stroke. That's where I've spent most of my time. I raced 7 all through high school, and then freshman year and junior year I was in 7 seat. 7 seats, a sort of interesting seat. Usually when you look at the makeup of the boat, you have your more technical guys on the bookends, so 7 and 8, and then 1 and 2, and then your real meaty guys in the middle. And when stern pair, you want some guys that are a little bit stronger maybe than bow pair, so 7 and 8 versus 1 and 2, to get the boat speed and get a bit of a stronger rhythm. So just being part of that stern pair, I'm responsible for providing watts to the boat, but also just setting a nice clean rhythm for the guys to follow and translating the rhythm Favre lays down to the rest of the guys in the middle four who can really get that boat speed up.
Certainly, and you and Isaac were both named All-Americans last year. I think we had you on before. I asked you about that honor. What does it mean to you and Isaac to have that honor last season?
It's definitely a great honor, but at the end of the day, I don't get that if the boat doesn't deliver. And that's the same with Isaac. No one really cares who coach thinks deserves this honor if the boat isn't placing the way it is. So, it means a lot. All credit goes to the guys in that boat for making it happen.
And so you mentioned Wesley and Tufts are, probably two of the top boats in the conference. I mean, we won't know for sure until NIRCs, but tell me a little bit about what's it going to take for the 1V to kind of get those extra seconds on them.
Well, one thing is just keep practicing. We're on the water later. We're going to get more reps. We're going to get sharper. We're going to get cleaner, and that's going to keep things moving. We've also held a few advantages back. So our flagship, the Kratos, it's a nicer hull design. It's a lighter boat. It's a stiffer boat. Yeah. We have new blades on deck that Coach thinks is going to make us faster. So aside from just the obvious gaining fitness, gaining technique, we have those marginal gains just sitting on the sideline.
You got a fast boat is waiting for you in the boathouse.
Yeah, I think we're going to show up tomorrow, and it's going to be rigged and ready for us. So hopefully that's worth a few seconds. And then just getting on the same page. Time in lineup is everything, and the more time we spend in the lineup, the more we're going to close the gap on these guys. We've done it. We did it last year. Yeah. We have a history of doing that. When we talked to the Wesleyan guys after the race, they said, great race, and we know this isn't as fast as you're going to get. You guys come back on us every year. So just keep listening to Coach, keep practicing, and I have no worries.
Excellent. Then IRA is obviously in your sights towards the end of the year, the championship regatta, which in the past was a very different format. It was maybe one small college got to go if they won NIRCs or whatever, but now there's a D3 race, and you had that experience last year. What is that experience like going to IRAs and competing with other schools your size?
It's awesome. I mean, NIRCs before, from what I've heard from the older guys, was sort of that championship race, but it wasn't recognized as such. And you had the women's side of the boathouse having that legitimate championship. And I think the guys wanted that experience too, to be able to say we're champions, we're contenders for the championship. So being able to have that venue where we can race that race, contend, maybe even come home with the win, and then say we are the champions of Division III, that means a lot more than saying, well, if you look at this race and that race, the way it sort of shakes out is we're pretty good. So that's just a huge opportunity. And then it's also awesome just to be at the IRAs and have it at the same venue, because you both get to call yourself a champion, you get to race the rest of Division III, and then you also get to see the pinnacle of the sport. So those top boats, they have actual Olympians racing in them. So you can look around, you can say, wow, here we are. We're doing great for ourselves in our division, and we're representing our school well. But we also get to see some of the best rowers on the face of the earth go to work, which is just an awesome experience.
Excellent. What other thoughts you wanted to share about this past weekend or the season so far we haven't got to talk about yet?
No, I'm just really proud of the boys. The 2V, I think, did great, getting within 1 second of Tufts. They've been my co-captain, Andrew Fry, he's stroking that boat now. He usually rows start, but he's made the transition easily, and he's really kept those guys in line. They've been looking awesome. They've been battling us hard in practice. And then the 3V has been looking awesome. There are a couple guys returning from injuries. William Conway, he's another senior. He just made it back in. And then Benji Richards, he's a walk-on. He just started this year. He's sitting 3-seat there. And those guys are really racing the bar. Those guys are showing that they can go out there, they can compete just like the rest of us. And they've been putting in great work. So proud of all the boats top to bottom.
All right, Charlie Berman, captain of the men's rowing team. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
On the women's side, the Bobcats outraced two-time defending NCAA champion Wellesley in every race over the weekend, while the first varsity 8 came up just short against Tufts and Trinity, respectively. Senior All-American rower Kate Dickson joins the Bobcast to update us on the women's rowing team.
Well, Kate, first of all, before we get into this past weekend, tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of your background. When did you start rowing? How did you discover kind of Bates was a place for you, right?
I started rowing my freshman year of high school. I showed up on the first day, and I guess the team only had 3 rowers at that point. And my tour guide said, put on my schedule, 4 p.m., you'll go to the boathouse. And I guess I fell for it. So I started rowing then, and I transferred schools for my junior year. I rowed at Kent School, so I got a little more of a competitive program, and that kind of led me to Bates. I really wanted like the most competitive team in D3. I loved the idea of D3 athletics and loved going to a school in Maine, and just the team atmosphere has been so great and so welcoming, and I know I made the right choice.
You're a senior now, right? So tell us a little bit about coming in during the height of the COVID pandemic and then having the team, win a national championship.
Our freshman year was definitely very different. We didn't really get a chance to bond as a whole team, so my grade didn't really know the seniors all that well, but so we didn't know that many people on the travel roster that well, but it was great to see so much support for all the rowers that went, even if the whole team couldn't go to all of the races, and just how much people supported them from home, from lockdowns, and every step of the way.
And what was it like to finally, really get on the water in a regular season your sophomore year?
Yeah, I started my sophomore year out with an injury, and I didn't really know if I'd be able to row again. I spent the whole fall kind of doing unsuccessful PT, and over the winter, I just found a way, and I made it click, and I had my first race in San Diego when we went to the Crew Classic. So it was really memorable because I had been at Bates for a year and a half, and I still hadn't gone to a race. But it was a great experience, and it was a great first race to have with the team.
And then become an All-American as a junior, what did that mean to you?
Oh, that was great. It was so special to have the team recognized like that, and it really, it was really represented how that boat raced that year and every member in it.
Excellent. And then tell me a little about the team this season. You obviously had a busy couple weekends, right? Back-to-back days with races. What's that been like so far?
It's been a lot. This is my favorite weekend in kind of our race schedule because it's the first time that we stop racing all the D1 teams. We finally kind of get to expose ourselves, what we've been working on throughout the winter and throughout the early spring season against teams that are in our bracket. And so the freshmen get a taste of what it's like to really get like a close race with Bates. And it's just so much fun getting to race like that, especially our first race on Kozick, 6 boats across it's always going to be exciting.
Yeah, I was talking with Charlie on the men's team about how 6 boats across is a very different feel than one-on-one, right? So what's that like from your perspective?
The heats that we had at the Tufts course, it's very different. It's you're just basing everything off of the crew next to you. You can make all of your moves based on the other crew. Whereas Kozick, you have 6 boats across. Sometimes the best thing to do is just we call it going through the tunnel. You look right into your boat, ignore everything around you, because otherwise you're just too distracted. So I always like to say that I look at who I'm rowing for, not who I'm rowing against.
Great. And then take us through your spot in the boat. You're in, about the middle of it? Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm rowing 5C right now. We have a starboard rigged 8, which is a little unusual, but not unheard of. So I'm still a port seat. And it's been great. We have a really wide mix of grades in our boat. I think we have 2 rowers from each grade. So it's great that we have some younger rowers in that boat. We don't always have freshmen in the varsity 8, and that's great that we have such a depth even in the younger grades.
Yeah, your spot, it's what it's called the powerhouse, or is that the term for it?
Yeah, Coach calls us the engine room.
The engine room, yes, that's right, I've heard that. So what's that like being in that spot, kind of?
It's great. I love it. I love the seats in the middle where I don't have to think about anything. I just have to follow the people in front of me, listen to Lucy, and just row as fast as I can.
Excellent. And then kind of what are the next steps for the first varsity 8 kind of going forward here to, you outraced Wellesley a few times this weekend, which has to be encouraging, but to, catch up with Tufts and Trinity here down the stretch. Sort of.
Yeah, Tufts and Trinity and Wesleyan, they're all really fast teams, and it's kind of exciting to see the NESCAC itself getting so much faster in recent years. It only makes us work harder. And of course we want that NESCAC title. So we're going into Speed Week, and we have a really fast kind of base pace, but we have had a lot less time on the water than these other teams. Even though we got our docks in early this year, they've been on the water since February. So we're moving in. We have Speed Week next week, doubles on the water, getting as much time out there as we can, and just we can add in all our starts. We can really just connect as a boat a lot better.
Great. What are your thoughts on the weekend you want to share we haven't got to talk about yet?
It was really fun to beat Wellesley.
Yeah.
I have not beat them since my sophomore year, and they've just been a rival. They're really a great team, and I know a lot of them pretty well at this point. They're a great team, but it's really nice to cross the finish line before them. So that's always fun. WPI, also a strong team, and they gave us a run for our money, but it was good to get out in front of them as well. And then just seeing all the NESCACs, it's really makes going into championships pretty soon so much more real. These are the teams that we're going to need to beat in a couple weeks, and this is kind of the first time showing off what we're doing. We'll get there.
All right, Kate Dickson, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's finals week for Bates students, so the next sporting event isn't until this Friday and Saturday when the track and field teams head to Bowdoin for the Maine State Pine Tree Classic. Find the complete schedule of upcoming events on our website, gobatesbobcats.com, and we'll catch you next time on the Bates Bobcast.